Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy here on the university, on the site of Quinnipiac University, and I'm here with Courtney McKenna. She is the case manager, Dean of Student Office at Quinnipiac University. She has invited us into her home here, so thank you for letting us be here on your set.
Glad to have you.
So, if anyone should ask, what is Quinnipiac University? What would you say to them? How would you describe it?
I would say it's a community, and it's a place where whether you work here or you go to school here, you can really find your place and find home.
And it's in Hamden, Connecticut, beautiful city, just north of New Haven, right, in North Haven. And I used to, a long time ago, we were mentioning this off the air, I used to live down here, I used to work at a radio station here. So I used to see the comings and goings. It's beautiful, especially in the fall, and it's a nice wooded area here. And we happen to be in the communications department, is that what it is here? Okay.
School of Communications.
School of Communications, and that's, tell me about the Ed McMahon angle on that, by the way.
So I believe he had a daughter that went here for some time, and she and he both loved the place so much that he wanted to get involved and bless us with his namesake.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that that helps attract people too. Now, the name Quinnipiac, it's big. It's not just Connecticut. It's like nationwide. We did a show recently, the Quinnipiac Poll People, just across the way here, and we are in an election year now, so that's big news. That's big stuff, and it was interesting to see how it all happens there. Quinnipiac sports. Where do you want to start to like brag about your university a little bit? Because you can go in so many different directions.
Gosh, I just think we have the greatest students, right? And I think the students then make the rest of the university really great. Couple that with really amazing faculty and staff members who care about those students, and I think that's really where, if you will, the magic happens. And
we, it's a very busy time as we happen to be taping this right just about the fall semester is going to start. The campus is bustling with orientation and the freshmen coming in, and you were busy. I think we literally dragged you out of a meeting to come and shoot today.
You did.
Yeah. But I think it was an excuse. I think we got you out so you could come on here. So what's the big stuff? What's coming up for fall?
Sure. So as you said, orientation is happening. We've had orientation earlier during the summer, but we also have our last orientation coming up, and then welcome weekend when all the new students come together for some different sort of additional orientation experiences. We have students moving in anywhere from today through Sunday, so new students and returning students. So it's pretty busy. And then not to mention all of the really great events and things that our student organizations put on. It's a fun time to be on campus.
What are the main majors that people would come to Quinnipiac for? What is it known for?
I think if we look at our schools, we have the School of Business, School of Communications, we have College of Arts and Sciences, engineering is a newer program that is attracting a lot of students. I'm probably forgetting some, but I think the great part about Quinnipiac is that you can come here for one thing and find a new passion and change to something else, and you're still in the right place.
And I noticed that it is growing in such a way that like things are moving. As a matter of fact, the studio that we're in now is actually going to get knocked down because a new one is being built. The law school's moving from this building to that building. It's all changing and growing, isn't it?
Yeah, the footprint of the university is expanding, and with that, really great opportunities for our students.
So you're not landlocked. You can continue to expand for a while?
Yeah, so we have the North Haven campus. So you mentioned the law school. The law school actually moved over last year or the year before. And so that is sort of opening up some space on this campus for newer programs to start and move into those spaces.
So someone's thinking, and this is really a question about college in general, but when should a student start making their initial plans if they're thinking if Quinnipiac is on their list or they're interested? What do they have? What are the beginnings? What do they have to start doing?
So I think the great part about colleges and universities right now is the web presence. You can go on and start your college search at any point. And we do see students doing that. And social media and different types of media help us do that. I know last year we actually had some sort of video conferencing with some students who are interested in from the different academic schools, which is just really neat.
Technology, let it happen, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. The other piece is that students can come on tours, and we have tours going on all the time. And then from there, we have not only, open houses for students who are in their senior year in high school, but we also have junior open houses, and that's a great market, an opportunity for students if they really want to start early. Check out schools with junior open houses.
So, and it's not, we're here on campus today, but it's not just about the campus life too, because most universities offer online courses too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I believe QU has a really growing online population, and I think that just speaks to the, the academic experience that QU can provide.
So case manager, what does that mean actually?
Yeah, that's a great question. I find myself explaining or getting that question a lot. Really, I consider my role the person who people can turn to if they want to refer a student who is struggling, maybe someone who's not finding their fit, a student who may need assistance either connecting with academic resources, interpersonal resources, any student who may be experiencing some mental health or physical health issues. And so my role is to get those referrals and then work with campus partners across campus to make sure that that student doesn't fall through the cracks.
So it's basically just to kind of get a student back on track any way you can, whatever their issue happens to be. And it's a fact of life. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to adjust to college life than for other people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a huge transition time going to college. And it's not just going to college that first time, it's sustaining in college. Different things happen throughout a time where a student may be here. And so we get referrals about students at all different points in their college career.
Now, speaking of careers, you're case manager, and you just explained that, but you have kind of evolved from some other positions here too, right?
Yeah. So when I started at Quinnipiac back in 2008, believe it or not, I started out in a very general student involvement position, and so worked with student government, student organizations, fraternity and sorority life, and student leadership. And then over time, moved towards a role in fraternity and sorority life more full time, and then moved over to the dean's office last academic year. I had shown a real interest in sort of helping students in that way, and had served on our behavioral intervention team. We call it our care team, but it's a team that meets to make sure that those students that I spoke about earlier don't fall through the cracks, and we discuss students and finding ways to assist them. I had served on that team for a while and really grew a passion for this area.
So you kind of knew you were heading in this direction, or you were hoping and an opening became available for you. How do you solve the problems, the very differing problems that students have? We use the generic term of falling through the cracks, but there are so many different things that can happen, and there obviously have to be so many resources available to you to be able to help them. What do you do? Where do you start?
Yeah. Well, I think we start with getting as much information as we can, and that happens from that referral source. So whether it's a roommate, sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's a faculty member or another staff member on campus, starting with this little bit of information and then seeing what other information we need to assist that student. The other piece is having really talented colleagues that also care about students who are experts in their area. So, whether it's a counseling center on campus, student health services, our residential life staff do a ton of work in assisting students, whether it's our RAs or our community assistants. There's a lot of people sort of within the Division of Student Affairs who are there to support students. And then we also look on the academic side of the house, our Learning Commons, which provides tutoring services. It's where our Office of Student Accessibility is housed for students who may fall under the ADA and need assistance in that way. So bringing all those people to the table in those care meetings certainly helps.
Now, Quinnipiac is a private university, right? Explain, the difference between that and your basic state university. Obviously, tuition is a little different.
Sure. And I think sort of the way in which institutions are funded looks different. Depending on what state, the governance structure can look different as well. But, students at both a private school and a public school can get federal financial aid. There are scholarships, there are grants and things like that. So it really just depends on sort of the feel a lot of times of what a student is looking for. Sometimes students want a religiously affiliated institution, sometimes they don't. So it's really a lot of times personal preference, because a lot of the opportunities available to students they can find at different schools, but it's what's best for them.
Right. Finances are obviously an issue for most families, and so when you're talking about a private school versus a state-funded university, obviously tuition is going to be a big thing, but there certainly are financial aids available regardless of where you go, even if it is Quinnipiac, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that a school with a higher price tag might be out of reach. I think doing the research on what is the sort of discount I may get because of my socioeconomic status, what type of financial aid is available. I'm a really great student, so what type of scholarships are available if I happen to be able to maintain a certain GPA over the course of my time. Not to discount any institution before you really look into those little nitty-gritty details.
Right. You might be ruling Quinnipiac out, thinking that you might not be able to make the cut, and that may not be the case at all, right?
Absolutely.
Financially or otherwise too. And it's amazing the things, like if you don't know about college these days, there's so many different aspects and things that are going on that are part of life and are also part of university life too. As a matter of fact, you were in a meeting earlier about emotional need pets for some students, right?
Sure.
Is it okay to say that?
Emotional
Yeah.
support
So
animals.
emotional support animals. What is that all about?
So that's just sort of one area that's emerging in terms of a trend in higher education for students who might need support. Generally, it's students with some type of diagnosed anxiety disorder or depression who might need that in their residential space, which is very different though than a service animal. A service animal does a task for someone.
Right.
Can go into academic buildings, into cafeteria or dining halls. So knowing the nuances of some of those things are really important for a student, among other things when they're considering schools.
What is the makeup of the student base at Quinnipiac? Is it a lot of out-of-staters? Is it more in-staters? Is it students wanting to get away from the house and come to Quinnipiac, or are they local?
I think we get a mix.
Yeah.
And I think that having been here, I think I said earlier
9
that
years?
I started in, so 2008. And I think the profile of the institution has grown, and so have the interest from different students. So I think perhaps years ago, Quinnipiac used to be known as a truly sort of regional school. That's just not the case anymore. And we're so excited to pull students in, international students, students from across the country, students who commute from home who are local. I don't think there is one student that describes all QU students.
How about describe the makeup of the professors here?
I think they're great.
Yeah. Well, you have to say that, you know.
But it's hard to, I think just like our students, it's hard to put them all in one bucket. I think Quinnipiac being such a community-focused institution, we've grown, but that sense of community and family has really stayed the same, I think. And what you find with the faculty is that they are more than willing to support a student in a time of need, to get them involved in research, to invite them in on a project, or push students to grow in areas they might not have thought to prior to coming here.
I think it's a good opportunity for us to take a break. I'll have you give out maybe a website for people to go and learn more.
Sure. If you're interested in learning about Quinnipiac University, you can go to www.quinnipiac.edu.
Courtney McKenna, Case Manager, Dean of Students Office, Quinnipiac University. One segment down, but we've got a lot more to get to, so we'll take a short break and come back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy here on site of Quinnipiac University, actually in a beautiful studio, but amazingly, these guys are so progressive. They're knocking this down and building another one. Courtney McKenna is the Case Manager, Dean of Student Office at Quinnipiac University. There's so much more to get to. Let's touch on the museum a little bit, because that's even if you weren't going to plan on attending, or you're not a student here, you can go and visit that, and it's amazing.
You can.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been by yet, maybe you can pass through on
Tourists,
your way out of town.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity, and you'll see faculty members integrating it into their curriculum to bring students, because it is so close to campus. But it's also a great gift and opportunity for the community. Local. We also have people who travel quite a ways to come and visit the museum. There's different events that take place. So it's just a really neat feature of the university.
I mean, when a university has a museum, that's, you're big time, right? So we've been talking about the different schools here at Quinnipiac, but let's talk, it's a buzzword, it's interdisciplinary. Tell me what that means in terms of the university.
We spoke a little bit about how the university has grown, but it still feels small.
Right.
And I think you see that in the ways the academic programs can sort of mix and merge together. So for instance, you have students in the School of Business who might also be involved in opportunities and programs in the School of Law. Nursing students might work with the School of Communications to do some outreach about health and wellness.
Would it be like a minor for them? Or?
So there are opportunities for students to do a major and a minor depending on their academic program. Our School of Health Sciences has some great programs that they do for outreach in the community. And with that, I think the other piece is that our co-curricular opportunities, so those things that complement the academic experience, like student clubs and organization, ways to get involved. When you mix all of those together, students leave here with this really robust experience that they can talk about in job interviews.
It's not just I went for this major and then that's it, and then I went and tried to go get a job in that field.
Right.
It's a very well-rounded kind of, tasting the buffet, if I may use a food
Yeah, that's a great way
analogy,
to, yeah, absolutely. And there's so many people here that can help students navigate that so that they can really make the most of their time here.
Getting back to what specifically your role is when you talk about all the different issues that you would help students with. Maybe it's academics, maybe it's financial, but getting more specific without mentioning any names, what are some of the problems that they're dealing with today that you can help them with?
Yeah, so it ranges, and
Yeah.
it could be a student who is here and didn't fill out financial aid paperwork and is now struggling to figure out how they need to pay their bill. And so it's working with our colleagues across campus in the financial aid office to say, what's the next step? And sometimes it's just walking with the student to that office to support them so that they know where to go. Other times it's helping in making a phone call. College or late adolescence and early adulthood is a time where mental health and mental illness concerns arise more so than any other time
Is that
for
right?
people. And
Wow.
so, when we think of the huge transitions that students go through when they may go to a new place for college, the stressors of balancing a new type of academic schedule in just that natural time of life, students do struggle with anxiety or depression or mental illness, and supporting them through counseling services or making sure they have opportunities to get involved so they feel like they have a place, those pieces help.
And think about it, could be the first time for a lot of them where they're kind of on their own.
Yes.
And you're like, they could be lost. And sometimes they don't want to reach out and ask for help or admit that they're having an issue, and then that only makes things worse for them. Right?
Yeah, so the students here who live on campus, and I don't want to make the sort of blanket statement that all
Right.
students do, right? Because we have great students who commute and are very successful in that way. But students who live on campus, particularly our first year students, have resident assistants, RAs, that will meet with them early on throughout the fall semester and have conversations, see what their goals are, see how they're doing, in addition to being there for the floor or their residence hall as a whole. But those interactions with students are something that is a key point that each RA makes, a key attempt and opportunity that the RA takes to make and build community with those students. The other piece is our students in the first year area do roommate contracts, right? So when we think of this maybe the first time they're away from home, they sit down with all the roommates and say, what do we agree to? What time are lights out? What time are we okay with the TV being on until? Are we okay if people use each other's things? And those things seem so little, but when you're in a space for the first time with new people, a lot of times that's the piece that sets something off that can cause bigger issues. And so there are those little things that help to provide more of a seamless transition for our students.
I can imagine, the first few days, and this is a stranger that you're sharing a room with, and I don't want you touching my stuff, but
Sure.
you get to know it if you build up a rapport, and this could be your best friend or your sister-like person, you know what I mean, helping you with homework or whatever, it changes. And I was specifically going to go there, especially that first-time student adjusting to campus life, dorm life, really. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a big change in your life, You have to learn where to order pizza and everything, right?
Sure. Yeah, many of our students are coming from a home where they've had their own room for quite some time, and so that transition to having a roommate, or some of our students have more than one roommate, that can be a transition.
From your point of view, what is the state of the educational system these days? I mean, I know it's kind of a philosophical question. I know you're not going to say anything bad, but I just thought I'd ask.
I'm not really sure how to answer that question.
It's a very rhetorical question.
I think it's an exciting time to be in college. I think with all of the resources that students have at their fingertips, they really can make the most of their experience if they have the right guidance and they know that those resources exist. And so I think a lot of times on college campuses, people like myself and others that are there to support students, one of our primary goals is just to make students aware of what's available to them, because a lot of times once you do that, the students will take the initiative to take advantage of those things.
The brick and mortar setup is never going to go away, right?
Right. Well, I can't see it, and I would make me sad if it did, but
Yeah.
I don't see that going away. I do see more online opportunities for students. I see.
Just for convenience purposes.
Absolutely.
The technology is there to be able to, you can do stuff on your iPad now, right? So, but the opportunities, like you said, are there.
Yeah.
Let's take one more break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. One more segment to go. Stay there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy with my guest, Courtney McKenna, Case Manager of Dean of Students Office, Quinnipiac University. A little bit of time left to touch on a couple of more things, the +1 program.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
You know, you spoke a little bit earlier about the state of higher education in general, and I think one of the ways that QU is really continuing to evolve and support our students is looking at the way in which we offer our academic programs. And so we have two schools, the School of Communications and the School of Business, have what we call the 3+1 program. So you complete both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in 4 years.
Wow.
You know, fully preparing students to go out and be successful upon completion of those degrees. But it's for those motivated students who know what they want to do and are ready to do it. And I think that's just one of the ways that we're able to support students and be malleable with the demands and the expectations of students coming to college now.
But I can see some students wanting to give it a shot, going, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I think I can do that. That's a big deal. Wow. And one more thing, and it's sort of a great way to wrap up the show, is talking about the core values of the university.
When I interviewed for my role, you know, back in 2008, that was one of the things that really drew me to the university, and I think they're one of the things that it keeps me here. So this idea of a strong sense of community, I feel that every day between our students, between our faculty and staff. The academic programs, so those strong academic programs, which is another core value of the institution, that keeps the best and brightest students coming in, and those are the students I want to work with. And the other piece is the student-centered environment. Everyone here is dedicated to make sure that students are really successful, whether it's in the classroom, out of the classroom, before they get here, when they leave. The connection to QU stays with them forever, and it's hopefully due in part to the way in which they experienced the university while they were here.
All right. I think we learned a lot about Quinnipiac University, and they can learn more still by going to the website, right?
Absolutely, www.quinnipiac.edu.
So another exciting school year. So this would be 2016/17, right? Fall and spring. So, all right. Well, thank you for allowing us into your place here. It's beautiful. We'll probably take a walk on campus before we wrap it up. So thanks for having us here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Courtney McKenna, Case Manager, Dean of Students Office, Quinnipiac University. That is our show for today. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site, so check that out. Till next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.